Amazing. All right. So, hi, Clive.
Hello, Alicia.
Happy Tuesday. Thank you for joining me in the Working Well community for us to record this conversation today. We connected probably a few years ago now, maybe two, three.
Yes, I'd say.
Um, and that was through LinkedIn, wasn't it?
Yes, it was.
Yeah. And you are a public speaker, very much coming from a place of sharing your lived experience and you're a storyteller, which I
Yeah.
love. And I think it's just so important in this body of work to allow yourself to be vulnerable and open
Yes.
as a therapy for ourselves and also to support others. It's really powerful, isn't it, what we can incite in others through storytelling
Yes.
and through sharing our own vulnerable experiences. And it is a couple of years ago since I heard your story the last time, and I've got a write up of it. But I just thought it'd be really great this week, Mental Health Awareness Week, for you to share a little bit of that for the community. And yeah, so I'm just gonna hand over to you. I might pop in and ask you a few questions throughout, but
Please
um,
do.
yeah, I'd love you to tell us all about your story and also, the role that movement has in it, given that it's Mental Health Awareness Week and the theme is moments of movement.
Well, thank you, Alethea. Thank you very much for inviting me today. And yes, those 2 years have absolutely flown by. My dad always used to say to me, "Oh, it goes quicker when you get older," and I used to say, "Yeah, whatever." But he was absolutely right. And I am exactly what you said, Alethea. I am a storyteller. I am not quoting from statistics or textbooks. I'm telling my own personal, profound story um, with brutal honesty and a little humour. And I pride myself on connecting with people. I don't want to be labelled a motivational speaker. Nothing wrong with that, but the motivational speakers, the motivation tries to invoke an action, whereas I'm very much an inspirational speaker, and the inspiration comes from a deeper place, in my opinion. Um, so, where to start, really? I'm a 53-year-old guy. I've got an incredible family, happily married to Vic for 27 years, and we've known each other since we were 12. We've got four incredible, amazing boys, men, I should say. We've got four grandchildren. And it took me 53 years to understand and appreciate the art of gratitude. But I am so, so grateful. And I'm so aware that I have a support network that not everybody's got. So that's a real, real blessing. Now, there's an awful lot happened in my life up to 2017. I had a stroke. I had a brain hemorrhage at birth. Honestly, we would be here all day. But I'm going to take you to a perfect storm that started in 2017, where my dad was suffering from Parkinson's disease and dementia. This is a guy that was born in 1937, stiff upper lip, never showed his emotions, but what a go, what a steady straight goer, as they say. Never broke the law, never used bad language. So when he retired and he started to show symptoms of Parkinson's, which really did take a grip of him, it was desperately torturous. My mum and dad got divorced when I was 10, but he had a partner for 35 years, and she deserves a medal the size of a frying pan. What she did for him was out of this world, a real blessing. So that was torturous, Alethea. It really torturous. So at this point, I'd left the Ministry of Defence. I'd started a small health and safety consultancy, and I was busy, busy, busy. And grief was setting in, but I didn't really understand it. And it doesn't come with a manual, does it? And it's a process. You can't fix it. We have to work our way through it, not around it, like so many things in life. So, but at that point of my life, I was experiencing some mild weakness in my left side, and I'm a chronic migraine sufferer, so I was seeing a neurologist, and a long story short, after 2 years worth of tests where he was eliminating all sorts of things, he told me that he was referring me to Oxford, which is a centre of excellence for motor neurone disease. And we went, myself, my wife and I, and they got 2 years worth of evidence and tests, and it didn't take them long at all to diagnose that I'd got motor neuron disease. Now, it's very, very individual. If it's aggressive, it stays aggressive. They cannot slow it down. But similarly, if it's slow, it, fingers crossed, does not speed up. And that's very much the case with me. It's an incredibly slow progression. I go every 9 to 12 months and they track the symptoms. I wear a splint when I walk. It does the work that the foot and an ankle and a calf should do. My core strength's not what it was. I can't stand for long, but I'm out every single day, Alethea. Movement is obviously the theme for Mental Health Week this year, and it combines. This is for me personally. You don't have to do it outside, but the movement that I do is outside because it's a win-win. Because I just love being outside. I love nature. I love listening to podcasts, and I wouldn't be without it. So, following the diagnosis, I was also completely by a random blood test diagnosed with prostate cancer. I had no symptoms. I still have no symptoms. But I went through the process of having a PSA count checked, and which was incredibly low. There was no alarm bells. Then an MRI, then a biopsy, and then the diagnosis. But it's contained in the prostate. Nobody dies from cancer when it's in the prostate. It's just when it spreads. So there's been a bit of a journey and a story about the various treatments that I was going to get, but one by one they've been almost ruled out because of the motor neuron disease. So any day now I'm going to be starting external radiotherapy, and let's get on with it, Alethea. I'd go this afternoon if I could, and let's zap it and let's stop talking about it, because we've got enough on our plate here. So that's my opinion, and that's the way I face it, head on. So that was my position. And I'm going, it's probably 2018 now, and my dad passed away. But this perfect storm, really, it was the epicenter of that. And I suffered from acute anxiety very, very quickly. And if you'd have said to any of my friends, do you think Clive would be a candidate for having his mental health compromised? They'd say, you must be joking, not Clive, But I can actively demonstrate that, it can creep up on anybody. And I went from being in the car a lot to not at all, to being outside, in the house, in the bedroom, in the bed, under the cover, within probably about 2 weeks. And I was terrified of the outside world, to the point where I could envisage, if it was raining or windy, I thought the roof was coming off my house. It was very, very real. So ultimately, through the intervention of a crisis team, I spent 10 weeks in psychiatric hospital, a scary place. Probably took me a couple of weeks to even know where I was really. But it was eventually recognizing the love and the attention and the support that I had from Vic, and recognizing her as, oh, wow, that is Vic. We're a team. She needs me, and boy, do I need her. And this famous word, perspective. Perspective was something that, of course, that I'd lost, but perspective was slowly seeped back into me, thanks to her. And I became strong again, and I was allowed home. But yes, I'd lost my confidence, and yes, I'd lost my income, but crucially, I'd lost my identity. That was the real challenge. All these hats that I wear, organically and with pride, your dad and granddad and friend and all the rest of it. I had to find a new place in the world. So it took a while. One of the things, a quick story, one of the things that I did do, and it held me in really good stead. And I don't really know why I did it. I was sitting on my own at the house, and I got a pad and a pen, and I wrote 12 notes. Hello, my name's Clive. I'm looking for some light gardening work or maintenance. And I can cycle a bit better than I can walk. So I dusted the bike off and I cycled within about a mile radius of my house, the poshest and nicest houses I can find, thinking, well, he's not cutting his grass and she's not cutting her grass. Put the note through the door. And Alethea, as I sit here talking to you today, I'm still helping these people. 6, 7 of them came back. And I honestly, I could not be without it. I will be in somebody's garden this afternoon. I was in somebody's garden yesterday when I got back from Chester, and it's absolutely wonderful. And yes, there's times when I feel vulnerable, where there's things that I could do with ease last year that I can't do this year, or I could do a couple of hours before and I can only do an hour. But I just adapt, I just work around it. And it's not about denial. I know exactly what's going on. But my positivity is not toxic. It's not forced. I'm authentic and it's genuine and it's how I feel. And I would not be without it. It's absolutely wonderful. Um, and it just occurred to me that I'd got a story to tell, and I really feel passionate about demonstrating to people that no matter the odds, we do have hidden reserves of resilience that I didn't know I'd got. I had no idea, but the fortitude and the resilience is there. It took me all these years to work out that we have to live life on life's terms. And, you know, we can't control what happens, but boy, we can control how we respond or react. We can. Um, you know, but I had to learn that. And another really, Alethea, I remind myself that I love and I am loved. Now, it's not that long ago. I was far too big and cool to come out with a statement like that. But my goodness me, it's wonderful because it's true. Uh, so, in a bit of a nutshell, that's really the last sort of 4 or 5 years of my life. And I feel extremely positive. I want to be productive. I
Yeah,
do an awful lot of volunteer work. I go up and down prisons, many prisons, and I'm actually filling a form in today for the maximum security clearance to go into some of the bigger, higher security establishments. And I don't just talk to inmates; I talk to staff. I
mhm.
work with foundations. I'm a massive boxing fan, Alethea, so I do work with the Frank Bruno Foundation. I work with Wolverhampton Wanderers Foundation. I did some work with the Samaritans last night to help with their training program. And that makes me feel fantastic. You know, I come home or I finish on these virtual engagements and I feel the positivity back with, you know, as I said before, I pride myself on connecting with people.
Yeah,
Um, and it lands and it resonates and I get so much back from it.
yeah.
Um,
And I,
I'm fortunate enough to have a website, which makes me sound like Billy Big Bananas, but my son's best friend does it for a living, so he did it for me. www.clivebranson.co.uk, and people can see what I get up to.
amazing. Can I ask a few questions then, Clive?
Absolutely.
You mentioned the moment where you kind of, you'd lost your confidence and you'd lost your identity. But it
Yeah.
seems like out the other side of that, you've created this new identity or
Yes.
an evolved identity.
Yes.
Would that be fair?
Absolutely. No,
Yeah,
that's absolutely, it did evolve. That's a perfect word for it because, of course, I'm drawing on some of my, shall we say, old experiences and skills, like having a big mouth and you know having confidence and being in front of the queue. That confidence I'd lost, but I was able to regain.
yeah,
But in terms of how I use those skill sets, that's how it's evolved.
yeah.
Um, and it's been born from my passion to use the story to help others.
Yeah, amazing. And then, so in terms of the story and the impact it has, so the work you do sounds great, by the way.
Thank you.
And I'm really interested in the interest that the prisons have. Like, I wonder what that is. Like, I'm assuming it's male prisons.
Yeah,
uh,
I have actually done one female prison, but it's predominantly male. Yes.
yeah. And so, do you think, when it comes to storytelling and hearing lived experiences, do you think do you think there's something that what is it that helps that to be a value to
Yeah,
that audience?
yeah.
Can they
Well,
relate to you in some way?
yeah,
Perhaps not, perhaps they're not their life choices, but
yeah,
as
yeah,
a person, as a man, is that
yeah.
working for you, do you think?
Yeah, Alethea, if I could show you, because I've got testimonials from just last week, from last year, because a lot of the prisons allow the inmates to give their feedback, and then the person that facilitated my visit kindly sends it to me, and it's incredible the response I get back from these guys and girls. It genuinely is. I mean, okay, so when it starts, there's a few of them come in and they're very keen. Some of them just shuffle in because they wanted to get out their cell for an hour. But honestly, by the time 10 or 15 minutes in, I've got their attention, and I speak to them on their level. I'm not preaching. I'm not giving them death by PowerPoint. I'm talking to them on a level, and Alethea, that they I try and show them not just about resilience and fortitude, but I also talk to them. Don't believe when people say a leopard never changes its spots. Because it's just not true. You can evolve and you can change direction. And I talk an awful lot about self belief. I think believing in yourself is really, really important. Um, so yes, I think so many things of parts of my story resonate with them, but I think it helps because they do perhaps get other speakers or other where they're just being spoken at instead of with, and I avoid that at all costs.
Yeah, and it's who, right? Like, I guess if someone, in that they're not resonating with, or someone from within the service is coming and telling their stories, it's like, well,
Yeah,
it doesn't feel like they can connect to that, but there's something
definitely.
about what you're saying and the way you're saying it that relates. And you mentioned about hidden reserves of resilience.
Yeah.
It sounds like you did a lot, and you kind of the way you tell the story, it sounds like it almost makes it sound easy.
Mhm.
To get yourself through these tough things. But
Yeah.
where did it come from? Did you do reading? Did you seek, did you have therapy? What was the
Mm.
journey of getting into those hidden reserves of resilience and those tools?
That's a great, great question. In terms of therapy, for me personally, and I certainly don't blame the people that were kind enough to give me that therapy. I think it was just I wasn't ready to receive it. So I had maybe 4 or 5 sessions, and it didn't help me, Alethea, and we just didn't connect. I felt anxious, very anxious before. I remember I couldn't relax, and I certainly didn't feel better afterwards. So for me personally, the therapy didn't work. I think feeding from the love from my family, I really did feel that they deserve to have the best version of me. And ultimately, you can read, you can listen, and you can absorb. Knowledge is power, and that is very true. But ultimately, there are decisions in here, in our heart and in our mind, that we have to make ourselves. Um, and it was my decision to think, well, how strong am I? Clive, how strong are you? You're saying to yourself that you want to provide, you want to be productive, and you want to make your family feel safer around you as you always have. Well, let's do it then. Let's do something about that. Hence the notes for the volunteer gardening. Hence the when I mean I do read books. I read true crime. I read biographies and autobiographies. But it took me a while to be able to read again. So I would, when I couldn't go in the supermarket because I thought everyone was staring at me, I didn't just not go to the supermarket. I left a while, thought about it, and went back the next day. And I didn't, it wasn't like a big test or a challenge. If I felt uncomfortable, I came away and I tried again. But it was just the point of, come on, Clive, what are you prepared to do? And I think that's what tapped into the resilience.
Yeah. So it was a real process by the sounds of it, of
Definitely.
looking inward and self-awareness.
Absolutely.
yeah, and aligning, looking at internally at like what your ambition and values and hopes are, and making sure that your actions
Yeah.
aligned with that, which is really tough, isn't it?
Oh, it's
Especially
really difficult. It's really
especially when
difficult,
we're facing adversity. I think when we're facing
Yeah,
adversity, that's the hardest thing to do, is be reflective and step
yeah,
away from being in
yeah.
it.
Yeah, oh yeah, it's really really difficult. I mean, I was addicted to painkillers for years, and you don't recognize addiction when you're in addiction. You have to. Uh, Somebody, I think it was Winston Churchill, said that distance adds enchantment to the view, and it's absolutely true. If you can just step back, take the blinkers off, and try and look at something with a wider opinion. And yes, it's all right looking in the mirror, but you have to look with honesty, really, real honesty. Surrendering to your vulnerabilities is so liberating. It really is. We all feel vulnerable at times, but of course we think we're the only ones, and we think it's all about the spotlight and feeling weak or being embarrassed. But you explore those vulnerabilities and you talk about them, all of a sudden they're not so scary and you're not so vulnerable. So that's probably another tool that I used.
Yeah, and there's a lot of strength that comes from facing them, isn't there?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Amazing. Well, thank you for sharing your story with us today.
No,
Um,
thank you.
it definitely, helps people to connect with a cause and a message, whether or not, it's directly relating to, MND or
Mm.
prostate cancer or anxiety, or if it's just, that process of
Yeah.
inward and becoming more self-aware.
Yeah.
Um, just by sharing your story, it helps others to think about that for themselves, and also for how to support employees, right? Like, how do
Absolutely. Yeah.
we support our workforce? We need to, particularly leaders, lead by example and be vulnerable and do some sharing and get the
Yeah.
right people sharing in organizations. Have you seen any really good examples of that on your, as you've shared this work? Have you seen good examples of organizations that are good at sharing internally, their stories?
Yeah, I really have. I mean, yesterday was a good example because, you know, a lot of people, they have a policy or a procedure that they like to promote, okay? And that's fantastic. But of course, those words don't lift off the page and reach the people that they're meant to help. You have to be proactive about it. And yeah, these people that they had proper working groups, and it wasn't just the right, you have to come here at that time and then it'll be done. It was recorded. People could log in. They could watch it in a week's time, and they they had a way. They had trained for first aiders, mental health first aiders, and it wasn't just about awareness. It was about the fact, well, okay, if you do feel a bit overwhelmed, and if you do feel like your mental health compromised, you can talk to us about that. Don't be scared to show a vulnerability because we're your employer. We're open to listening to that. And by the way, you're not on your own. So yeah, to answer your question, Alethea, whilst there's still an awful lot of work to do out there in the wider world, working world, I do thankfully see very good examples of it.
Yeah, good. That's good to hear. Because you're right, there is loads of work to do still, but there are definitely signs of like good progress.
Yes.
And you're right, employees need to feel safe to share.
Yeah.
Like how would you feel if you went back into your MOD role? Like, how
Mm.
would you feel about sharing this story, or not necessarily the MOD, because that makes it specific about that employer, but how would you feel if you were back in that world, that industry
Yeah.
maybe?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
How would
yeah.
you?
No, well, absolutely. You'd like to think that I could do it, but of course, when you're in that environment and you've got all of a sudden there's a management structure and there's people that that you're responsible for, or it puts restrictions and parameters around you and around your thinking, which is why the employer has to be open, because everybody's aware of the parameters. But if you can recognize that the employer is not just black or white, they recognize that life comes with gray as well. So I'd like to think I could share, but it wouldn't be easy. It wouldn't be easy.
Well, thank you for sharing here today.
Oh,
I'm going to
thank you.
include in the notes about this session ways that people can get in touch with you, so you don't need to cover that now. But yeah, really appreciate you sharing this story with us this Mental Health Awareness Week. And tell me what you're doing this week. So you're going to be in the garden this afternoon.
I absolutely am. I popped out to try and fix a lady's lawnmower before this started because she was broken, and she lives around the corner and she's 84.
Amazing.
So I fixed that. I'll be in a guy's garden this afternoon. He's 89. He's got a wonderful, wonderful place. I was on a podcast early doors this morning, so it's been a busy, busy day so far. But yeah, it's absolutely wonderful, and the busier the better.
Yeah, amazing. And if you've got one message to people watching this, and as I said, the audience for this is our Working Well community members, so it's people who are leading well-being within organisations. What's your message to them around, the use of storytelling and the power of it?
Do not underestimate the power of storytelling, because it's a cornerstone for connection. And we are meant to connect. We are as human beings, we are meant to connect, and the benefits of connecting and sharing and telling our stories, good, bad, or indifferent, they're very, very, very powerful, and they lead to wonderful work that can be done in the workplace. So I'm just privileged to be a part of that process.
Amazing. All right. Well, great to speak to you, Clive.
Thank
And
you.
yeah, I'll hope to chat to you again soon. Thanks so much.
Well, I hope so. Well, enjoy the rest of your day. And yeah, I look forward to speaking to you soon, Alethea. Thank you very much for the opportunity.